So I've given this presentation a couple times today. We'll make sure I think that your students ask some really good questions throughout the presentation. So we'll be able to use that to help guide my presentation. And again, if you have questions, I think Miss Spicer just briefly popped in. She's here. She's one of the counselors, Miss Lyons. Everyone will be able to answer questions. Okay. All right. So just so you know, when we upload this presentation to the Magruder website, everyone is going to be able to see this. If you have a specific question and you just want to get to a specific page, this index will let you do it because I believe the presentation is like 30 something slides. So if you don't want to have to go through all of it, you can use the index to be able to kind of navigate specifically what it is you're looking for. So meeting the counseling department, there has been a couple changes over the last year. So we want to give you guys some opportunity to know our counseling department runs through Alpha. So a lot of us do keep students for all 4 years. Obviously, we've had some turnover, and we do change counselors from year to year based off of, like, we can't let one counselor have 300 kids when somebody else has less just because of, like, maybe that part of the alphabet, we just have a lot of students, so there are some adjustments. Um, the Miss Pulai is a little bit new, last year and worked primarily with our EML. He's taken over most of the caseload that was Miss Williams for the last couple years, and then Miss Ackerman replaced Miss Pulai, and she works primarily with the EML level 1 and 2 students. So if you have questions about the process, this is kind of going to be your go-to. If you click on the link, there's some fun facts about us, where we went to college, our favorite song. This to me this morning because I have a 4-year-old. My favorite song is the Paw Patrol theme. Um, so you can kind of contact us this way if you have questions. And as I stated to the students, look, there's always going to be a situation. I know that my alphabet has changed a lot over the last couple years. And so students who I've worked with, families who I've worked with in the past, if they feel more comfortable, if you had Miss Harwood for the last 3 years and now you have Miss Spicer, like, Miss Spicer is not going to be offended if through the college application process you would like to, speak with Miss Harwood. So we're an alpha breakdown, but open to helping anybody who needs it. So you guys met Miss Lyons. She's our college and career navigator, and she is an amazing resource. I told all, like, be all end all regarding scholarships and FAFSA. So she obviously has a lot of other really good information, and she's always posting things about resources for students and presentations for Zoom nights that will be really helpful. But you will see her a lot when it comes to FAFSA and scholarships. Miss Fields is a face that a lot of people probably haven't seen. She is our registrar, and she is who will be responsible for sending transcripts. So if students come into the counseling office, to the left, right after you get past Mr. Riley, is Miss Field's office, and that's where students are going to submit their transcript request forms. So that's how we know what schools we need to send your transcripts to. And Mr. Riley's been with us for a couple years now. He is a counseling secretary. So if at any point they can't find who they need or they don't know who to find, he will make sure to help you. All right. So getting started. There's a couple things. Obviously, we have some big dates. Today was the senior parent night and the presentations throughout all the English classes. Tomorrow will be the first day for students to request that transcript request form to Miss Field. So I went to a couple classes and there was nobody in there who said they had an October 15th deadline, but I know that South Carolina has one. And some of the other big Southern schools do have those earlier dates. So students are able to start requesting their transcripts starting then. Wednesday, October 1st is another really big day, and that's our financial aid overview night. It will be on Zoom, and they're going to be open to the county, but it's a really good opportunity. FAFSA opens on October 1st, and so kind of walking you through the FAFSA application process, man. And just kind of any specific questions, there's going to have, I believe Miss Lyons said, somebody from St. Mary's who is well-versed in it, and not just talking about St. Mary's, but talking about, best ways to work financial aid for your student and your family.
Can I jump in for like 1 second?
Of course.
Yeah. I just tell your kids I'm going to be running a huge thing throughout the whole month of October, as soon as FAFSA opens, all the way to Halloween, where every student who at minimum, creates their FSA ID, which is the account you need to complete the FAFSA, they will get a pizza party in November.
All right, so that's what we're looking for. Just a fun fact for everybody is that I believe definitely in the county, but we have to be up there in the state of Maryland. Magruder had the highest FAFSA completion rate in MCPS, so that's something that MCPS is really pushing, and it's something that Miss Lyons works really hard at because we want to make sure that families have the ability to have access to money. College is not cheap. And so walking through the FAFSA process and financial aid and finding additional scholarships is a really big part of that process, and we know that. So where to start? One of the first things for counselors, but for the whole application process is that senior brag sheet. I know some of the classes worked on it in their English classes junior year, but if they have not gotten started on it, it is we need it done. So we ask that seniors have it completed before they request a transcript, because ultimately what happens is as soon as they request a transcript, the counselor gets notified that we need to write a letter of recommendation. And if I have that and I go and I log on and the brag sheet isn't there, it just makes it harder and it's a delay in getting that letter written for your student. So there's directions on the website on the presentation about how students can access the About Me brag sheet. It is only 11 questions. So we're not asking for anything major. I just typically ask for more than one sentence. It tell me it asks students if they have a job, what volunteer things have they done, what do they want to major in. So the way that I explain it is that a counselor recommendation letter kind of talks about your student as a member of the community and what they're going to bring to the college environment. And teacher recommendations are about who they are in a classroom. So that brag sheet is really an opportunity for them to tell us what they're doing in the community and what they're doing outside of the classroom so that we can make sure that the colleges know those things. So the next thing is that every student, no matter what the plan is, needs to create a Common App account. And the main reason for that is kind of how students are able to sign the FERPA waiver. What the FERPA waiver does is it allows us to send your documents. If a family does not sign the FERPA waiver, then we cannot sign a transcript. So Common App kind of creates this portal that allows for us, once you connect your Common App account to your Naviance account, which is kind of how all of the application process gets started for Magruder students, is that will allow Miss Fields to upload the transcript. And that will be even to, MC or any of the other 2-year programs or a lot of the trade schools. Because if they require any proof of transcript, we cannot do that without that FERPA waiver. So we do have directions here about how to create a Common App, how to access the FERPA waiver from Common App, and how to link their accounts so that we can do that. So if you have a student who is strictly looking to apply, like they know they just want to do a 2-year school, they know that they only want to go to one school and that one school is not on Common App, or they're not going to apply via Common App, they would still need to create it. But this is kind of the shortcut directions of what needs to get done in order to just link your account and kind of make the process as painless as possible. Your student would just need to create an account using their personal email address. They would enter their name, and then in the education section, enter Magruder. They would go to the college search, and they just need to add one school. It does not mean that they need to apply to that school. They do not need to fill out anything for that school, except for when it goes, when you can identify that that is a school. When you click on it, it allows you to sign for your FERPA waiver. So there's 2 aspects of a FERPA waiver. One is us sending your academic records, and it's just your transcript. We're not sending, any other part of your record, but your academic transcript. The other part is optional, kind of, and that is letting you waive your right, or you have the right to waive your right to read your recommendation letters. So if you can technically say that teachers cannot send a recommendation letter about you until you read it. Once you make a selection on Common App, you cannot change it. But what I will say is that, and colleges will come in and tell you that if you do not allow for your recommendation letters to be written without your child seeing them first, they essentially invalidate your rec letter, because they're saying they kind of view that as you have input in what is being said. So we highly recommend that students choose to waive their right to read the recommendation letter, but that is the other question that is part of the FERPA waiver. So once they have filled out that education system and signed their FERPA, then they have to match their account to Naviance. There's a really short video here on how to do it. It is super easy. Once they get into their Naviance account, which they can do through Clever on their Chromebook, so there's no user login name or anything like that that they should have to remember. It will let them in. They would just add the email address that they use, so their personal email address. There's a box, you put that email address in and it links the two accounts. And so once that is done, we can send your documents and we can kind of move forward. So when your student goes to submit their transcript request form to Miss Fields, she will make sure that this is done prior to your student leaving. So if it's not done, most likely they will send them back to the counselor and we will walk them through this process. All right. So letters of recommendation are kind of the next part of, the application process on the school side. So most colleges require a counselor letter of rec. Not all. And I will say that over the last couple years, there has been kind of a move away from that. A lot of schools are going to like less documents, but a majority of schools do require a counselor letter of recommendation. So if the school requires it, again, we need that brag sheet so that we can make sure that we have all of the information in there that your student wants us to talk about in their application. So what I always kind of tell my students is that if there's some award that you won or something small that, you don't think is that important, I promise you that somebody else has added it to their application. And so it is really important for your student to brag about themselves and make sure that they let us know. Because I told all my kids, I don't care how small you think it is, I promise you that it is important and you did learn things from it, even if you don't think you did. And I will make sure that, that the colleges get to see that part of you. So it just gives us a little extra information. There's a lot of really cool stuff I've learned about my students over the summer, or things that they've done or things that they add to this brag sheet. So again, we're not asking students to spend hours and hours and hours on it. I know a lot of our seniors have put together resumes. If they have not, that is fine. No stress. But making sure you kind of think about the whole picture, even if it's, hey, I worked for all 4 years, or I have to watch my family members after school, so I can't work, or that's kind of why I can't do extracurricular. All of those things, if you're okay with us sharing that with the college, are important to put in the brag sheet. So teacher letters of recommendation. Um, we went into the junior English classes last year around April, and we kind of advised them to start having conversations with teachers about writing their recommendation letter. It does not mean they absolutely have to have asked by now, but we do think that, there are some teachers who will be like, I can only write X amount, right? Because rec letters for counselors and for teachers are often things that they have to do at home. And so, some teachers will be like, look, I can write 20. So it is important to kind of have that conversation with teachers to see where they're at. It is also important for students to kind of acknowledge and look at the requirements of your specific school and your specific program. So I will say a lot of the STEM fields. So if your student is applying to one of the hard sciences or engineering or math, they might have specific requirements about who they want your rec letter to come from. So even though your student might be super involved with our theater program and has worked with Mr. Schmidt for 4 years, if you're applying to an engineering program, um, they are going to want a math or a science teacher to write that letter of recommendation. So make sure that you're reviewing the application before you ask a teacher, and know that you have somebody in there that if they have a requirement, not all do. And then we typically tell students to really only ask two teachers. A lot of colleges, like I said, have kind of started capping how many they will read. So if you ask a third teacher and you have no schools that will allow for a third rec letter in there, then it would mean that that teacher potentially wrote a letter that doesn't go anywhere. So making sure students are aware of what they need before they apply and when they're talking to those teachers, so that they can kind of, make sure that everything is covered. We'll show you on the next page, but it kind of, as students add colleges to the list of schools they're applying to, as they are able to link their teachers to the recommendation letters for those schools, there are like very clear outlines of what each school will accept. And then it's really important, like if they say only one letter will be required, but a student adds two teachers to that school, whatever teacher submits first is the letter that they will read. Um, so the other big thing is making sure that we give teachers and counselors kind of enough time to write those letters. So we ask at least 20 school days before the deadline. Our transcript request form does have like kind of those deadlines. This is what I will say. I have never said no. Even if a student comes in after that date, obviously we're going to work with them. But just kind of for context, I know I was speaking, I think Miss Spicer, who's on here, um, had to write upwards of 40 recommendation letters. So the difference between teachers and counselors is that teachers can say no. So if a teacher doesn't think that they would be the best fit for your student to write a recommendation letter, they have the ability to be like, look, I don't think that this is the letter that I would write for you is probably not your best option. Counselors must write a letter. So, if we are writing 40 letters, and I would say last year we had almost 130 students apply to University of Maryland, which is a November 1 deadline, like we're writing a lot of letters. So we ask for, you know, time that we can make sure that we give each letter the full time that it needs.
Miss
Um,
Ms. V, can I jump in for a
yeah,
second? So there
yep,
was a question in the comments specifically talking about letters of recommendation and I'm sorry, I'm Miss Spicer for those who don't know me.
sorry.
It's okay. I jumped in late. Asking about what kinds of teachers can write letters of recommendation. For example, can it be a coach or a teacher from a different school? Yes, you can do that. We always recommend that you have like a current academic teacher as well as a coach. But if you have a teacher that is a coach too, like you can use both of them. We definitely say, have at least one academic teacher from an area that you're potentially applying for
Right.
the, specific program. And teachers from other schools, yes, we have teachers who either have moved on and are at other schools or have retired, or students who come from other schools where they want letters from former teachers. We can always make arrangements for that. A number of our staff that retired, spoke to some students, agreed to write letters of recommendation.
Right.
If they do not work for MCPS at all anymore, if they are retired completely, then through the Common App, they can contact those teachers directly. But if they're still in MCPS, they can send things to us, or we can make arrangements to have those things uploaded into Naviance or request them directly through Naviance.
And
Yeah, and like I don't know if we have any early college parents on here, but
We had some early
very
college
regularly
questions.
we
Yeah.
do, yeah, you can add the professors to Common App as well. So there's definitely ways to do that. Just have your student talk to us and we'll make sure that the letters get to where they need to get to.
yeah, and one more thing, if they are in a CTE program or they just transferred from another MCPS school and they have a teacher from junior year from another MCPS school, I can connect that teacher to our Naviance.
Yeah.
So just have the student just speak to me and I can make that happen.
Yeah, so like a Seneca student, an Edison student, if you want your teacher from one of those programs, we can add them to our account. So this is kind of what I was talking about when students add their colleges to letters of recommendation. At the bottom, it'll say, add letter of recommendation. You pick which teacher you want to write it, and then it'll tell you exactly which colleges you want to send that for. So you can kind of see there too, like American will allow 3, but only 1 is required. Whereas like Temple doesn't require any, but they'll only read 1. So you want to make sure if they're only going to allow 1, that the one that you're sending is the one that you want to go there. So UNC will require 1, but will allow 2. So you can also see as you add them, it's going to add the due date so that the teacher has an idea of when your application deadline is. Um, so if students need help connecting their teacher, if there's a teacher for any reason that isn't on Naviance, just let us know and we'll get those teachers added. So there's some new teachers. So like like, I don't know, Mr. Williams, I was in one of his classes today, so he just comes to mind, who was here before, so they might have had him as a ninth grader, and now they have him again, and so, but I don't know, we'll have to make sure that we have him updated in our system. So those transcript requests, so it is a paper copy. This is like one of the few things we're still doing on paper. This links, everyone should be able to see it, to a copy of our transcript request form. So all that we're asking is student tell us the university, the deadline, and how they're submitting it. So there are a handful of schools that still request mail in documents. There's a couple HBCUs. Georgetown likes to be difficult every once in a while. And so if you are doing a mail application, then you need to send a stamp or a stamped envelope with the name and address of the college, and we'll get everything uploaded in there. We ask that we have a signature from your student and your parent, again, just because like we're sending academic documents, and then the counselor's name. So that would kind of be that area. Like, just as an example, I know Coach Harward works really closely with a number of our seniors through lacrosse, and so maybe they have a good a good relationship, and you feel more comfortable asking her to write your counselor rec. That is completely fine. Just make sure that you're writing who you want to write in there, and give the counselor a heads up. Also, just in case for some reason the folder doesn't get over to them, they can make sure that they're looking for it. And then this is kind of that deadline. So we're looking for roughly 20 days ahead. Like, I I have written letters for requests that come in on Halloween for November 1. I'd really rather not, and I can't promise you it's going to be the best letter. So the more time that you can give the counselors and the teachers to write the recommendation, the better. And like I said, this form you here, it's available on our website, but students can also just stop into counseling and pick them up. We did give them out to most English classes today, so your students should have a copy already, but we have so many copies, so if they lose them or they add them, you know, they need to add schools or get more, then they're easily accessible.
I'm sorry, Ms. B. I did add to my presentations today that after their first request,
Right.
right? So after
Yeah.
they request that first one, 20 days gives us that good time. If they add a school right before, like on that October 30th, they're like, oh, wait, I wanted to add the school. Or even after that November deadline, they find a December 1st deadline they want to add. That 20 days is not as important. It's really that first request, because once those documents are in and updated, we don't have to do any additional documents usually. So it's not a big deal if they add one in. So don't panic if there's like an addition afterwards.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I was about to say, it's really about the first one, and after that, everything for Common App, everything kind of goes. And so once it's in there, if you're applying to Common App, the documents are generally there. So adding dates after the first one. So I said, just like students today, like, if you know you have an October 15th, or you know you have a November 1, and that's the only school you definitively know, if you get that one request in, which the first 3 are free, after that, it's $3. We will have everything ready kind of after that. So if they don't have their definite list, but they do know they have at least one early, then getting us that first one is most important. So some other stuff that it's important for them to tell us: when they add the schools to colleges I am applying to, they need to tell us how they are doing so. So they need to let us know what application type they're applying for. Is it early action? Is it regular decision? Is it rolling? And that way, that helps the teacher know what the deadline is and us know what the deadline is, but also how they're applying. So, like, I always use Pitt as an example because I know University of Pitt has an application on their website. So, like, you can go to pitt.edu and you can apply to their school, or you can apply to them via Common App. So they'll call that the website application per se. They'll call that direct to institution. And I know that some schools will have like a fee waiver if you apply direct to institution. So they have multiple ways. We just need to know how it is, because that's where Naviance will send your files. And then, are you planning to submit your SAT or ACT score to be considered? You just have to let them know if you're going to, because a lot of schools now are test optional or test blind, or we'll talk about that in a second. Um, so if that way they know that their test scores are coming, and if they aren't there yet, they know to look for them. Um, students should select add application only and not the add and request transcript, because the request transcript is coming from the paper. So who's kind of responsible for what? Students are going to send the application. Obviously, the application fee, you can see your counselor, Ms. Lyons, regarding like the Common App fee waiver. SAT scores and ACT scores. Magruder does not have access to your students' SAT and ACT scores, so we do not send them. I would recommend the day that you let the counselor know that you're requesting a transcript is the day you let College Board know, because College Board will ask for the same amount of time to process your request as we do. And I do know that they like to add additional fees as you get closer to the deadline if you want to ensure that it makes it by the date of their application deadline. So the other part is essays. We talked a little bit about this with your seniors. I believe most of the English 12 classes are working on essays right now. So that is something that they will get feedback from for their teachers, but it is really important, for students to have their essays looked at by multiple people. To me, what I think is really important is that their voice and their character comes through. So, students will come and they'll be like, "Well, I don't have any big major events." You don't have to have some big major event to write a powerful essay. Is a while ago now, but like my essay was about how bad I was at band. My mom made me be in the band. She told me it was going to make me a more well-rounded person. I was awful. But every day I went to band class and I learned a lot from it, and it was a different experience for me to sit every day and be bad at something. Obviously, I practiced and it got better. But as somebody who identified as an athlete, and that is what came naturally to me, working really hard for something that I wasn't good at, I learned a lot from. So you can write about that. You can, I have a student who got into Princeton and wrote about his acne. We've had some really creative essay options. I believe there are a number of workshops. I don't know, Ms. Lyons, if there's any more coming up. I know there are some over the summer, but if check the college and career
Few more.
website, and
Yeah,
yeah, there are some.
I just posted a new one today.
Cool.
Yeah.
So have your students kind of stop into those. A lot of them are virtual, just to kind of get ideas and feedback on what schools are looking for in their essays. And then any supplemental, whatever the schools are requiring, right? So if you are applying for art, you might have a portfolio. I know that a lot of schools, Common App came up and it was this one-stop shop, and now it's every school wants their own side application on top of the Common App, and so making sure that you complete all of the requirements for that application, right? So then they're asking for the teacher letter of recommendation and then the transcript request, and that transcript request will act as the counselor letter of recommendation request. So there's a lot on their end, right? Teachers are going to write the letter of recommendation. They're going to send it on time. Uh, Students can see where they are in the process on Naviance. So just so you know, like you'll be able to see it. What I will say is that colleges, a lot of times we can show your student that all the files were sent. But if the college doesn't necessarily open every single student's document on the day, the November 1, November 15th, December 15th. So sometimes it will say that they don't have those documents, but it's because they haven't opened them. So if your student is worried, they can come into counseling and we can confirm that the documents were sent. Um, Counselors will send the transcript. We will write the counselor recommendation letter, any secondary school report forms that come from Common App or independent application programs, and then also the school profile. And what the school profile is, it's kind of a snapshot for colleges to get an idea of what the Magruder community looks like. How many of our kids are going to a 2-year school versus a 4-year school versus military or work. It breaks down all of our AP scores. So they have an idea to see kind of like how your scores rank and how you do amongst your peers. So, maybe our highest AP physics score was a 3. I don't know if that's true. But if it was, and they can look and they can see like, oh, this student got that score and that's the highest score at the building, it kind of puts into perspective, the application. So it's a really helpful for colleges to kind of see what our students environment looks like every day.
Miss V.
So like
Sorry.
what
Sorry.
What were you
There's been
saying?
a number of questions about where to find this website or the presentation and where to find all the links. I've
Yes.
linked it a couple of times in the chat. So if you want it, it's in there. And then, but if you go to the Magruder website, right at the top bar, there's a link for counseling. It'll take you to the counseling office website. And then at the top of that, there's a whole section that says college application process. And it has all of this information, the presentation plus individual links down there as well.
And all of the English teachers have it as well, and they said they were going to post it in their Canvas pages. So we will get it if there's anywhere that you feel it should be. I will make sure it's there. Okay, so SAT, ACT. There has been the pendulum has swung. I think it's swinging back. Since COVID, test optional has been a big thing. So if your school says they're test optional, what that generally means is that if you have test scores and you would like to submit them, they will be considered. However, if you do not send test scores, it will not be viewed negatively for any reason. It is a truly optional, like, they it is not like you're being voluntold. There are no tricks here. If you send them, you send them. If you don't, you don't, and they're not going to have any judgment. Schools, there are a handful of schools that consider themselves test blind. That mean even if you send a perfect 1600 to them, they will not look at it. They will not consider it as part of their application. Test recommended, that's where the trick is. Test recommended means if you do not send it, they're gonna want to know why and they're not gonna like it. So test recommended, if that's what your school is listing as, then you should send SAT scores. And then test requires our applications without a test score will not be considered. So I think everyone went really hard test optional after COVID. I think they're kind of moving back towards a more test required situation, but not all. So make sure that you look, and then if they are recommended or required, make sure that you are going to College Board to send those scores. So if the schools that have gone to that test optional and test blind, what does that mean? It means that colleges are focusing on other aspects of the application. So they're going to be looking heavily at your essay. They might look at like a resume if they require it. They're going to look at transcripts. The recommendation letters are going to be key, which is why it's important that you ask the right teacher. And then some colleges might have additional essays or other new components of their application that they're going to look for. Some schools might not take an SAT score, but they'll take AP tests or some other standardized test that isn't the SAT. So make sure we're looking at what the schools are requesting, and then know if your school isn't looking at your SAT and ACT score, that like it's going to be important that you kind of beef up the rest of your application. So the applications. So it is important that we do all required parts of the application. I had a student a couple years ago who had written her essay in Google and then forgot to submit the last essay over to her application and hit submit, and they would not take it after she hit submit. So her application was viewed as incomplete. Have somebody proofread the entire application before you submit. Some English teachers will do it, some counselors will do it, Miss Lyons might do it, just because we want to have eyes on there. I told my students today, I will proofread their letters, but if I get one essay that is written on the phone app, on the notes app of their phone, I'm not reading that one. I've done that enough times, and that's where I draw my line. So some type of Word document, and we will look over their essays if they want us to and provide feedback. I know, like, my mother is a court reporter and she would proofread literally anything, and it would result in epic battles at home. Even though she probably was the best person to have proofread my essays, I refused to let her just because I was 18. And so if that's going to cause stress at home, there are plenty of people in the building who will do it. And then, like I said, you can look on Naviance to see all the required documents have been received. It does take some time. Again, it may say initial materials submitted when everything has been sent, but it is because the school has to check that they have received it. So that's our only caveat. But again, if it helps, I will confirm with your child that the documents were sent. One big thing that we like to touch on is early decision. I feel like there have been a number of schools who've kind of moved away from early decision, but it is something that your student must talk to your counselor about before they submit the application. There is a form that counselors have to sign that says that we had a conversation with your student about what early decision means. So, just for those of you who don't know, early decision is a legally binding contract. And basically, what that means is that if you apply and you get in and you're accepted, you are legally required to at least pay for one semester. And so even if you get in and you're super excited, but then your financial aid packet comes in and it doesn't cover your needs, um, they will still require you to come there. So that is a conversation that we have with all students of kind of like, look, there are benefits, right? Like, and I don't know, Miss Lyons might have heard more than I have over the last couple years. I wouldn't say that it's like a huge percentage, but kind of the word on the street is that if you apply early decision, if you're kind of on the cusp of their application, their requirements, their testing, their GPA, and things like that, applying early decision may help a little bit. I'm not really sure how much it does anymore, but the reason is because they know that if they let you in, you have to come. So colleges do like that. And so that's kind of was the word on the street. I feel like a lot of people did it and now it's not as much. But it's just a conversation we have to have and we have to sign off. So if you have a student who's thinking about going early decision, please talk to us. Um, Other options are going to be early action, which is going to be you apply early. Typically, you get to know early if you're in, but it is not binding. And then there's priority deadline, which is what Maryland likes to do, and that's you apply early, you still find out late. But for MCPS students, they are taking a majority of their population in that priority deadline. And honestly, at
It-
this point,
It's
I'm
something like
quite a Maryland regular.
90 something percent of students that are accepted
Yeah.
through early action.
Yeah, their regular decision pool is typically going to be kids who maybe tried to go early decision at an Ivy and didn't get in and then needed to add a school at the end. And so um, I would, if your child is even considering applying to Maryland, it really needs to be that priority deadline. There's also,
The
um,
Sorry, one more. The
mention-
early action deadline is also often where students are considered for those merit-based scholarships as well. Often if they apply later, they're not in that consideration pool.
yeah. And then there's things like rolling, and rolling is going to be that as you apply, they will let you know within like 6 to 8 weeks of your application whether or not you're in. Um, so there are definitely benefits, but like those schools might fill up. If they let a lot of kids in and the kids accept early on, then there might not be spots the later you go. So while rolling does have, the flip side is that if they don't fill up, they might be open much later than other schools' deadlines. Um, and so just, keeping an eye on it kind of and knowing like if you want to apply to a rolling school, I would typically say to do it earlier than later, but there are some rolling schools that go later. So Montgomery College and other 2-year schools, the reps will be in our building all the time. I promise. They're there a lot. Miss Lyons highly promotes them, and you can come and they will walk you through the application process. They also have a lot of information on their different honors programs and their scholars programs. And we have every year that I've been at Magruder, we have at least had one or two students who've gotten full rides to MC. So I talked to a lot of my students about like the benefits of doing 2 years at MC and then being able to transfer into your state school. You have to do the 2 years because a lot of our kids will be like, well, I just want to do 1 year at MC. But if you do the two, um, you are going to get into the state schools. So I think it's definitely, you can apply for the 2 year, you do your 2 year program there. And then when you graduate, your diploma will still say Maryland. No one will know that you did the first 2 years of your program at MC. And it can save a lot of money.
And
So
they are tremendous programs.
yes,
Tremendous.
at MC. Yes, they're wonderful, and they are willing to help our kids in any way they can. So when MC comes, I always tell a lot of even my super high flying kids that are like, I'm not going to MC. I believe MC just got the top ranked 2-year college in Maryland, and it's always ranked top in the country or up in the top in the country. So it's a really good opportunity for our kids. So college visits coming through. I talked about, like, what else students or what else schools are looking for in the test optional age. One big thing is going to be demonstrated interest. So if your student is applying to a school who is going to be at Magruder. So over the next 2 months, roughly, we will have colleges in and out of Magruder all day, every day, coming to talk to our kids. 95% of the time, the person that comes to Magruder is the rep that will be reading your child's application. So that is who your student needs to meet. We need to show up, shake hands. I told my one class they needed to shake hands and kiss babies, and they had no idea what I was talking about. So but this is an opportunity for you to meet the person who's going to ultimately decide whether or not you get into that college. So it is very important that you make every effort possible to get into the career center to meet with these. And the reason why is because if they're in your building and you don't go see them, they're going to think that ultimately it is not that important to you. And if they let you in, you still might not come. If I was in your building and then you apply to me and you didn't even come see me when I was in your building, like you didn't even have to travel to me, they're going to think that you're not school. Obviously, there are situations. I always use Mr. Kraft as my example of, like, I know that there are going to be days where you cannot get out of your AP Calc test. But go talk to Miss Lyons. Let Miss Lyons know that, hey, this is my top school. I have a test. Miss Lyons can communicate that information with the rep. The reps. Sometimes the reps might stay a little bit later, depending on what their schedule looks like, or leave a package, for your student to pick up afterwards, and they might put their name on the list as if they came. So it's really important that if the student is interested in a school that is coming, that they go to these college visits in the career center. So instructions on how to sign up are here. All the schools, Miss Lyons, if you want to talk a little bit about, like, when they're added and how the students can see it, but there are directions here as well. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Oh, no, no, sorry. I'm sorry. I was having trouble with the
You're fine.
tapping the
Yeah,
mute button.
I don't know if
Yeah,
anyone's
no,
trying to.
the list of colleges is available in Naviance. Again, all they do is go through Clever, click colleges, and then college visits, and they can sign up. We are asking the students to take more responsibility this year than we have asked in the past, and they will be told they have to sign up in advance or they have to get a pass from their teacher. So please remind your kids to triple check. That list is updating almost every day, and we have some really fantastic schools this week. So far, we've already had George Washington University and American University. We've got a lot of great schools coming, so let's make sure that we get the kids all the information they need.
Yay. All right. So FAFSA and scholarship, again, we're gonna have that FAFSA completion night on October 1st. FAFSA is going to go off your 2024 tax returns. Obviously, I openly talked about it in my classes today, but, like, I understand that we have a lot of students who have families who work in DC, and I understand that the DC employment rates may have changed over the last year. So there might be changes to tax returns. And so there's definitely a way that students can apply and let FAFSA know that there were changes after the 2024 tax returns. But we really recommend all students complete a FAFSA. You never know, how much money you'll be able to qualify for. It doesn't mean you have to take it. But it is a really good, like I said, MCPS is their push is that all students will complete the FAFSA.
And some schools
yes,
will not.
Lyons.
Sorry, I know it's probably what you were about to say, but some schools will not even award merit aid if they don't have a FAFSA on file. It's extremely important, no matter No, sorry, no matter what your income is.
Yeah. Um, I would also say that the Miss Lyons has a very elaborate and wonderful scholarship page, so that's linked here as well. So go check that out. She's completely updating that. She puts everything, every scholarship opportunity that comes in is posted on there, and then she will work with your student to find money. That is like I promise you, if your student needs to find money, Miss Miss Lyons will do everything she can to help
I'm an
find that
evangelist. I'm
money.
a scholarship evangelist. I swear to God. I put myself
I
through
agree.
school on tiny little scholarships. I am such a believer. It is possible.
And we have to also remember that there's a lot of these really big, like flashy scholarships that are like the national ones that have a lot of money. But there's a lot of kids that apply to those big scholarships, and sometimes those small ones, especially the local ones, don't always get applied for. And that $500 might not feel like a lot, but it's your books for the year. I
Mhm.
tell this to every class since he graduated in 2019, but I had a student who applied to so many scholarships that University of Maryland gave him money back. There were ways to do that. And I'm sorry, my dog, but there are ways to pay for college and to pay for it completely if you work for it. And he applied for a lot of scholarships, but there's ways to do it. And Ms. Lyons is wonderful at helping with that.
Yes. So just some additional tools. I'm going to continue to pump up Miss Lyons. She made this amazing college application checklist. So this is linked here. It kind of walks you through step by step what you have to do. It is going to include all post-secondary options. So even if your student wants to take a gap year, you can learn more about different types of gap years and what you're looking for in different trade schools and military. It's going to have stuff on like the essay, so it'll walk you through all of the different pages and what you need to do um, to get more information, things on Naviance, how to set up your senior college tracker. So please, please, please check this out. She sent it to me over the summer and I was highly impressed. If you like it in a document style, another opportunity is the Senior College Planning Guide, which is linked in here. And you can kind of walk through, and it's going to give you a lot of the same directions that we gave but have additional resources, different things about the essay, all the common app prompts there. Everything is updated. It is very important um, for students to kind of just have, we have all of these resources, and I understand that sometimes it takes a lot to pick through and find things, but they're definitely there. And then the college and career website that Miss Lyons runs, if you go to the class page, it's going to be all of the updates about the college application all the info sessions we've talked about, post-secondary options, Maryland school snapshot, things that you should be doing in the fall of your senior year, all of these, and then any of the, scholarships and essay workshops or, whichever, anything that she has about the seniors is going to be linked here. And it is a lot. So again, I understand that, sometimes we have to like dig through it, but I promise you we have resources for your student no matter what their next steps are. And we want to make sure that they're ready, come May. So we have a little bit of time. I talk about this all the time. They laugh at me. It is really important that students clean up their social media. And I know that like it is different now than it was when we first started talking about these things, but a lot of schools actually ask for you to provide your usernames on the internet. Like they will look, and a lot of schools have reported that they do check. And they're going to see what you put out there because that's kind of, it helps them see judgment and what you might look like on their campus. The other big thing that I say is make sure that we have an appropriate email address. We have a lot of students who choose to do their name college at Gmail or something. And so then they just have one email address that's professional that they can put all of their college stuff in, because I know colleges like to send you as much as they possibly can. And so it almost feels like spam. And if you want to keep everything in one place, use that one email address. So we talked to them about this in the spring, but I will continue to bring it up. Seniors have asked me a number of times, "Do you think this is appropriate?" And my general answer is that if you have to ask me if you think your email address is appropriate, then it probably is not. So, one kind of last thing, we talked to them about it, but obviously senioritis, I would like to point out the change in grades and what that'll look like for your seniors. So, the grading policy is different. A lot of schools, Maryland is one of them, that requires a mid-year transcript. So they want to see what your first semester looked like. There is wording in our school profile that is in all MCPS school profiles that kind of explains the changing to our grading policy. So it is very possible colleges are going to look and be like, well, okay, well, what do things look like now, right? They know your student used to be able to, get a first quarter and then let everything kind of drop and still end up with, an A or a B. And so now that the numerical the transcript is going to be like a mathematical average of your students' grades, like they're going to be checking. So it is important that they really finish out the whole semester. So I know senioritis is hard. I get it. This is a really hard time of year. I understand that there's so much going on. They want to make sure they're out supporting their friends, going to see everything, and really experience their last year at Magruder. But it is important. We have had students have admissions rescinded. It doesn't happen often, but it is something that we have seen happen. And so, we just make sure that we put it out there and let everyone know that it is important they kind of finish this year strong. So I am going to stop talking. All right. Stop. How are we doing? Questions? Any updated trust?
Yeah, we've answered all the questions in the chat, but if anyone has any additional questions, you can certainly put it in the chat now, or you're welcome to speak out and ask the question. Everybody's feeling, oh, there we go. Everybody's feeling good about all the information. I know it's a lot. We said that
So
to the
much.
kids today. It's a lot. It's a lot for us.
I felt really bad for the English class I went into first period. I was like, this is like an info dump at 7:30. So
Yeah.
are we good? Okay.
The question is, do you recommend taking both the SAT and the ACT?
No.
That depends very.
I feel like
Yeah.
there used to be a bigger
Yeah,
difference.
it depends very much on
Yeah.
the schools you're applying.
Will the chat be posted? No, but
Will
we
the
can
chat be
download
posted?
it and we can add like an FAQ if that helps.
Yeah.
We can add an FAQ from here.
Mhm.
But yeah, for the SAT and the
Absolutely.
ACT question, again, like I said, I wouldn't recommend taking both. They have gotten much closer. But it used to be like Midwest schools really preferred the ACT and Northeast schools, but they are equal in both
Yes.
what they cover and who accepts them.
So Ms. Lyons, there's a question.
Yeah.
What if a student is not a US citizen, but he or she may have all the documents, including a social security number?
If they have a social security number, they can file the FAFSA.
They
If
can
they
always come
don't have a
see.
social security number, then we have other options for them for financial aid. They just need to come to me, or a parent can call me. I have translation services. Anything anybody needs, we can make this happen. Also, if a student has a social security number, but the parents don't, they can file the FAFSA. So we will make it happen for them.
Get a parent view
Yes,
Naviance. Yes.
yes.
And
Send
we
me an
can make an
email.
account for them. Yeah.
Send me an email and I can add I can activate a parent account so that you can see not all but most of everything you need to see for your student's Naviance.
It looks like we missed a question. Is there assistance if she comes directly to the school to help fill out the FAFSA application?
100%. Multiple times this year. I already have 2 evening completion sessions scheduled. I'm working on, I think, 3 or 4 more. If you want to come during the school day, I will make myself available to you 100%, whatever you need.
I tell you, we were the best in the state. We will
We
help
were
you
number
with FAFSA. We were number 1.
one. Kind of set the bar high, but
Yeah,
I'm committed,
I
locked in.
appreciate Should you make
Yes,
an appointment?
for me, I think I would say yes. It's important to make an appointment because my schedule is crazy. I have colleges coming. I have students, on my calendar all day. I have a scheduling link directly on my website, or you're more than welcome to email and call, and we can find a date that way.
Do you need all of
No.
the stuff? No, MC, if you are applying for their honors programs, then yes, they have an application process, it's
You-
similar. But generally speaking, if you are just if you're going to MC and you're not applying for the scholarship, then mostly it is just going to be sending your final transcript.
And yes, the parents can see the college visit schedule.
Yes.
If you have a parent out in Naviance, if you don't, if you go to the Magruder High School website and click college career on the main menu, and then hover over college and click testing, not testing, I'm sorry, I don't know where my brain is going. College visits and info. If you hover over college and click college visits and info, I also have a calendar on that page that has all of the upcoming visits.
All right.
Oh my God, Kelly, thank you. I love you.
Yes. We just got to get the students to read the emails.
Yeah.
Right.
Any other questions out there?
Carlina, if you need anything, let me know.
All right. Thank you, guys.
You guys are awesome. All you parents, you are critical. Thank you so much for being so engaged.